Welcome, everyone. I'm Kitty Benson. I'm the minister at Unity in Naperville, and I am so glad to have this time together with you tonight. This Good Friday service is something that I really find sacred, and I have memories of doing this together in our church space each year. Tonight, here I am in my home, and here you are in your home, because there's something so big going on around us and are just covering the planet, actually, that it's forced us to make this change. And if there's ever a time to address what's happening to the human race right now, Good Friday is the time to do that. And so I'm just going to invite you throughout this next half hour to take some quiet time and begin first tonight by opening your hearts and minds to spirit through the music of our music director, Kim Char Meredith. We'll hear her song, In Stillness, and just allow these words and this tune to relax your heart. Take in these words and feel the very presence of God in you.
There's nothing more profound than the sound of your whisper breaking through the dim. There's nothing more sublime than time and space collapsing as I'm breathing in. And in between, breathing in and breathing out, I sit and wait in There's no place I'd rather be than right here, just you and me. Where would my heart go? You are everywhere, and all I care to know. And in between, breathing in and breathing out, I sit and wait in
And so let's just sit and wait. Allow your heart to be open to the presence of God within you and all around you. We allow this peaceful time together to be a time of remembering that we are never alone, that the circumstances of our life have no power over us, but instead, the presence and power of God is tonight and every night, in every moment, the very life energy of our being. We thank you, Spirit, that as we join our hearts together with so many around the world, we remember that that presence of life never leaves us, even if the body leaves. We, as spiritual beings, are the life of God. We bless all those tonight who may be facing illness, trusting that your divine power, your perfect love, and your wisdom are guiding them through every step. Are blessing them with comfort, that this presence is speaking to every cell in their body with the words life, life, life. And in this peaceful place, one with the one, we give thanks as we allow this spirit to harmonize all things together for good within our bodies, within our circumstances, and around the planet with our global family. All things are working together for our highest good. So it is, and now we let it be. Amen. You know, it has been said about me that I tend to be a heat-seeking missile for truth. I kind of like that title. It feels like it fits me because what I often find myself doing is kind of sifting through the extraneous, trying to get to the heart of the matter, trying to get to the point, trying to see what the most important elements are of my circumstances, trying to find the meaning behind everything. And as I have been looking at Good Friday for many years in my life, you know, since I was a child and attending church, I've been through many Good Friday services. I've read the scriptures many times. I've heard others speak about this event. And yet tonight, I wanted to see if I could find a new level to this experience. And I don't want to minimize the scriptures or minimize religious beliefs or how other people have taught this story. But I would like to have an opportunity to open the door to another way of seeing. And granted, it's my way of seeing. And so you're just open to receive or set it aside. But I'm hoping that it will be an opportunity for you and I to enrich our personal experience of Good Friday. And my hunch is that if you've chosen to spend this time with me now, that you already know the story behind Good Friday. And it's, for me, something that I learned early on as a child. It was the day that Jesus was crucified. It was an experience that he chose to have and was taught that it was to make it possible for other human beings to have the same experience of God that he had. And I will leave the whys and the hows of that, the theology and the beliefs, up to you to decide what that literal story means. But tonight, I would like to look at Good Friday through the lens of what you and I and the entire planet are going through right now. And that is called by many names. We've heard it as COVID-19 or the coronavirus, or we've probably heard it as a pandemic and even the invisible enemy. But little by little, it has become known in our lives, and in greater or smaller ways, but some even to the point of death. that we have this in common with each other right now. And many of us are taking this time to address this issue in a way that puts up practical defenses against it, and at the same time trying to establish a new routine that still allows you to experience as much as possible from your old routine. Not necessarily that easy to do right now, but again, I'm interested in looking at this from a different point of view, a bigger picture than just the practical reaction to what's happening. And I'm hoping that if I'm able to see this from a higher point of view, that when I get through it on the other side and come out not just alive and well and able to buy toilet paper again, that I will have a deeper and a richer experience of not just Good Friday, but who I am, to be more authentic about my life. That this experience, combined with my understanding of the symbolic level of Good Friday, gives me an opportunity to feel more alive. And though we have Easter right around the corner and the celebration of the resurrection, we still are here tonight on this Good Friday to experience the crucifixion. Maybe not in a literal way, but it must be faced before we can have the freedom that Easter offers. Just like the caterpillar knows, it has to face dissolution before it can find its wings. So, a couple thoughts that came to me about the Good Friday experience tied into this pandemic that we're going through right now. And I could say that there are so many people and so many experiences that are happening during this time, all kinds of restrictions and all kinds of heartaches. But there's two main ideas that I think we can all relate to that seem to be making themselves known in this to everyone. And that is fear and separation. You know, the common fears right now for those of us who are healthy are, what if my income runs out? What if I have to leave my home? What if I run out of food, for heaven's sakes? And the separation that we're feeling starts with orders that tell us to separate ourselves from one another, to stay in our home. And even if we go out to the store, there's labels on the floor that tell you to separate and how far apart you should separate. The masks that we wear on our face are separating the smiles that we need to see so dearly right now. If we have a loved one who's in assisted living or nursing care, then we feel very separate from them. We're not allowed to visit. And we feel a fear that the sickness may come upon them or on ourselves. And if so, a common fear is dying alone. Fear and separation. That's what's come to the forefront for the entire human race right now. COVID-19 is putting a spotlight on those two experiences that we all share. And it's a spotlight that's actually bringing up something that's been living within the human race for probably since the beginning of time. Fear and separation dwell in each one of us at a subtle level. But now, with something this drastic showing up, it's bringing it up for all to see. And when this happens, like it does right now, where these two ideas are being seen so clearly, we know that it has been brewing within us for a long time and seeking attention in us for a long time. When it comes up at this proportion, it's coming up for healing. Fear and separation are coming up in the human race for healing. And I'd like to think that that's what Good Friday can be for us tonight, is the opportunity to heal our consciousness of fear and separation. The symbolism for us in unity of the crucifixion, or the crucifix, the cross, is that it's an opportunity for us to cross out error thinking. And what we saw Jesus do was put a spotlight on probably one of the biggest error thoughts that humankind has ever known. And that is, we are only human. That was the mistaken belief that Jesus crossed out and hung on that cross to die. So, what I want us to do tonight is think about how we have allowed those mistaken beliefs about what to fear and how to feel separated, how to see how they've been standing in the way of our connection to spirit and the infinite good that spirit is constantly trying to give us. We have literally been sitting at a table of bounty that is offering us all that God is and starving ourselves, depriving ourselves of love and creativity and abundant flow and well being because we believe that error in our consciousness believes that we don't deserve that good, that we aren't good enough, that we aren't able to make it happen, that we don't have enough money to make it happen, that we're too old, that we're irrelevant, that we've made too many mistakes. And it's those kind of beliefs that have separated us in consciousness, never in reality from God, but separating us from God and our good. And I know that because you're listening to me here tonight, that you also have a level of consciousness that realizes that is not the truth of you. That is not the truth of reality. That thought that there is not enough or I am not good enough to have the good is a misunderstanding that is coming up as a fear or a belief in separation that needs to be crossed out. And these beliefs are what are keeping us in lack and sickness, in conflict, and that feeling of, I am alone and I am separate from you. So I'm going to ask you to come to the table tonight. This is a table that is similar to the one that Jesus called his disciples to on the night before he was crucified, what we know as Maundy Thursday. And he called them to go through a ritual that allowed them to remember him in a certain way. I'm asking you to use this time at the table tonight to remember what is true of you, of that Christ presence within you. The truth is that all those things we feared and all those excuses for feeling separate, none of those are necessary. Most of us think that I need, as a human, I need to be able, I need to afford, I need to do it right. But the truth is, we don't need our human self to be able. We don't need our human self to produce good. We don't need our human self to do some extraordinary work. That is the work of the Christ. And even Jesus knew this when he said, it's not I, but that spirit within me that does the work. And he was the one who recognized how often his ego was trying to misdirect him when he stood in the garden before he was arrested and said, take this cup from me, but not my will, not the will of my ego, but let the will of my spirit be done. And at that point, if we can come into that place along with Jesus in remembrance of him and approach this from the same level of consciousness that he did, crossing out that error thinking, then we are able to say, I will no longer allow my ego to guide my thoughts. Not now in the middle of this pandemic, not ever in this human experience. I will not listen to my fears. I will not allow them to trick me into believing that there is not enough. That is the thought that needs to be crossed out. I need to release that and let go of these ideas that I'm only human, that I am unworthy, that there are too many past judgments that I've made or others have made of me. I've made too many mistakes. There's too much lack or limitation in the world. Those are all ideas of the ego that I'm asking you to cross out tonight as we honor this time of remembrance of Jesus's life. Tonight, I'm going to be inviting you into the ritual of communion and remember that even though we will face human struggle, as Jesus said, during this human experience, even though we will see apparent limitation as we move throughout our life, we will remember that it is our Christ nature that can do the work in and through us, and that it will always be able to rise above those limitations. So just see if we can't move into that consciousness tonight. I will not let ego's fears rule, because with God, all things are possible. I will not let the physical circumstances or the physical distancing keep me or convince me that I am separate from my good, because God is my good and God is everywhere present. Nothing can separate me from God. I will not let this human experience blind me to my true identity. I will remember that I am spiritual first. I will remember the demonstration of Jesus the Christ as he proved that not even death had power over his being. That is the identity that I'm asking you to remember tonight as we come to the table, and release those thoughts, cross out those thoughts of fear and separation. Will you come to the table tonight as your true self, your infinite spiritual self? Will you come to this table tonight already whole and always loved, which is the very truth of your being? Tonight is the night for that. And as I invite you into this time of communion, it's obviously an optional ritual, but it might be an opportunity for you to practice this ritual as a reminder that you are now and always one with the Spirit of God's love, the Spirit of God's peace, the Spirit of God's power and provision. This is an opportunity to remember the gift of God that is fully present. And so we begin tonight with the element of bread. If you have some bread with you, I'll invite you to take it in your hand. And as we look at this symbol, we see it not just as a literal piece of bread, but as a symbol for God's infinite substance. That this bread is made up of the spiritual energy of spirit that stands underneath it. This could not exist, nor could anything in our lives, without the spiritual substance of God. And that substance is everywhere present. And so when we take of the bread tonight, realize that we are continually provided for through God's infinite substance. Up here on the screen, you will see a call and response. And these are the words. I'll begin by speaking as the leader, and then I'll invite you to reply, and then we will take of the bread. Divine substance replaces all fear of lack. Together, God is the presence, the only presence in my life. You may take of the bread. This juice reminds us of God's ever-renewing power, power that is fluid and flowing, and nothing can ever get in its way. It's a power that pours through our lives, refreshing and renewing. It's a power that creates and transforms, that transcends all limitation. As we take this juice, we'll speak this call and response together on the screen. Divine life transforms all limitations. Together, God is the only power in my life. You may take of the juice. I hope that you will take some time between now and Easter morning to contemplate what spirit is bringing up in you to be released, to be crossed out. It might be a fear that's ready to be released. It might be an old habit that you've had enough of. It might be a hurt that is ready to be healed. It will require some quiet time with Spirit. It will require a willing heart. But I ask you to take that time on your own to see what it is exactly that Spirit is trying to heal in you. I want to finish by sharing a poem with you that I was introduced to just a while back from a friend of mine who's a poet. He's written many beautiful pieces, but when I saw this one, I thought, this is Good Friday. This is by Phil Ryan, and I believe this message is perfect for tonight. I believe it was actually written in a cemetery, and he has named it Thoughts in the Growing Darkness. Hope is a bright illumination that surges through ragged black tatters of fear to radiate shimmering pulses of life and love and knowledge across this fragile sphere of ours. Faith is our own essence, reaching beyond itself, strummed like a chord by an unseen hand, until it reverberates in time with the universe. Prayer is the place in you where hope floods down in torrents of possibility, and faith reaches out, bold and unafraid to seize at it, uniting itself perfectly with the pervasive soul of pure being. As we close tonight in prayer, I will invite you into another call and response. As you leave tonight, when this prayer is over, you're welcome to make an offering on your own. There's a donation button on our unityinnaperville.org website with instruction for online giving or mailing. And I thank you deeply for your loving support. May this evening of Good Friday be a time of remembrance of the greatest mistake that Jesus was able to cross out, the belief that we're only human. May that understanding open your heart and mind to other ideas that need to be crossed out as you connect your very being, the Christ within you, to all that is. So on the screen now, Parker, if we can show our closing prayer, I will speak and ask you to reply. I let go of the thought, I am not enough. Together, I surrender and wait on the light to break through. I let go of the thought, there is not enough. I surrender and wait on new life to bloom. I let go and let love lead me to truth. Together, I surrender and wait on God. Namaste, dear ones.